Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. Georgia lawmakers are moving on two big quality of life fights at once. First, SB 443 just passed the House and would raise the penalty for blocking a road to a high and aggravated misdemeanor with possible fines up to $5,000, jail time, and civil liability. Yay. Second, lawmakers are also pushing HB 154. That's the Georgia Sunshine Protection Act. That's a clever workaround that would ask the federal government to move Georgia into the Atlantic time zone so the state could effectively stop changing their clocks. Wouldn't that be nice? Joining us now, State Representative Noelle Kahaian of Norks, of like you can, of Georgia's 81st House District. Representative, great to have you. Sorry for that. Glad to have you here today. Yes. So for viewers who haven't read the bill, so what does SB 443 actually do? Because my understanding is it would make obstructing a highway or a street a misdemeanor. Is this the cleanest way to explain it?
So it raises the penalties from what we currently have because we've just witnessed mayhem on our highways recently. We had I-75 shut down by protesters, and you can imagine how difficult that is for lawmakers, for drivers. We heard stories that people couldn't get to their doctors, emergency vehicles, first responders, people missing their shift at work, and we just can't have that here in Georgia.
Now, Democrats and civil liberties groups are saying this could chill protests and punish people for exercising free speech. So where do you draw the line between protesting in public and holding the public hostage?
Sure. If it's stopping our public from getting to their jobs, getting first responders, then we need to draw a hard line for that. The public comes first. They can still have their right to protest. We have lots of different types of protest. It doesn't have to turn into something that could be dangerous for our communities and our first responders. Yeah,
because one of the most compelling arguments for this bill is the life or death argument. When first responders or commuters or families are all sharing the same roads, I mean, should the law treat deliberately blocking a road as more than just disruptive theater?
That's exactly right. And all the Republicans in the Georgia House voted yes for that. And it's unfortunate that the Democrats didn't come along. There might have been one Democrat that voted yes with us. I'm still reviewing that, but it's really not a heavy lift.
Representative, talk to us about the need for this bill. I mean, is this something that have there been incidents that have occurred that spurred this on?
Yes, absolutely. There have protesters tried to block I-75, which caused lots of problems. Thankfully, no fatalities. But the other thing that this bill does is it gives a private right of action for somebody that's been harmed, property damage, to actually sue civilly, and hopefully that will stop some of the nonsense. But whether you lose time on your job or you have property damage, a vehicle, your actual land, then somebody should be held responsible for this because it's their negligence doing this.
Representative, who's opposing this bill in that legislature?
Sure. The ACLU is, because they're saying that it would chill free speech. We disagree. You can still protest. And actually, even on sidewalks, the bill has a portion of that for sidewalks that you can protest, but if a peace officer asks you to move, then you need to comply with that officer or it'll be a lower offense.
Representative, we've been hearing a lot of stories coming out of Georgia recently. One most recently about Senator Raphael Warnock. What was your reaction to his speech on the Senate floor the other day when he was chastising the Republicans for the TSA agents? I don't know if you've been to the Atlanta airport recently, but a lot of your constituents who are trying to fly today are probably not very happy.
That's right. It's rich. Right. It's just the hubris knows no bounds. And that's what I'm hearing from everybody. He doesn't he doesn't represent our state. He really doesn't. The things that are in his mind and come out of his mouth, we all just scratch our heads and like, what world are you living in? You're not living in the real world with the rest of us.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's switch to the clocks story because this one sounds like a Georgia special. If Congress will not let the state go to permanent daylight savings times, lawmakers are trying to move Georgia into the Atlantic time zone so that you can effectively keep later evening light year round. So is that the workaround here? What's happening?
So I've heard that I listened to the floor speeches, and there were no public hearings. It did not go through committees, so the public was not able to weigh in on. And I'm not okay with that. Quite a few Republicans voted no. One senator had a really good Republican senator had really good speech against it. Listen, Puerto Rico is 1,500 miles away, and we want to be in line with Puerto Rico, which is to the east of us. And it would severely disrupt the rest of our commerce with the rest of the states. Sometimes of the year, we'd be 2 hours difference than Alabama, right over the line.
So supporters of HB 154, they say that the twice a year clock change is not just annoying, it may actually have real costs. I was shocked. I was shocked because I was reading that there are spikes in car accidents, strokes, and even heart attacks after the time change. So how much of the momentum behind this bill is about health and safety, not just convenience?
Yeah, I mean, it passed the Senate. We'll see what happens in the House now that since there wasn't a hearing, we weren't able to get enough input from the community, but the House is getting input. I'm getting text messages, emails, people send me studies that show exactly the opposite. And of course, having our kids going to school in the pitch darkness, that could lead to fatalities also. So I'm really listening to the constituents to see what they want. And I'm not opposed to voting no on a bill when I need to.
So the funny part is that Georgia already passed a law in 2021 to go to permanent daylight savings time, but it's stuck because federal law still requires congressional action. So does the new bill kind of show how frustrated you've become with Washington's inaction on this?
It does. And we've heard that Florida is pushing this even harder than us. South Carolina might get involved. And that's different. If we have a lot of states together, all of us changing, that's a little bit different. But it shouldn't just be us on our own. There's other things. This is what drives me crazy. There's other things that we need to lead on in Georgia. We're spending a lot of time and resources on this type of legislation when we still need to pass election integrity bills. We still need to protect kids from sexually explicit materials in our libraries. Just move it to the adult section. We're still trying to get ivermectin over the counter. I would much rather spend time on that and let Congress deal with the time zone issue.
So what are the biggest practical hurdles left before Georgians can actually stop springing forward and falling back?
So it would have to pass the House. It would be this week. Our very last day of session is April the 2nd. So we need to hear from the constituents, need to contact their legislators, specifically the House, your House member. And then Congress still would need to act. I think it was 22 that the Senate passed a bill that the House didn't take up. And then a few years later, the exact opposite happens. And Congress seems to be just a broken wheel sometimes.
We're speaking to Representative Noelle Kahaian, joining us live from Georgia this morning. I think I got the name right. I wanted to get it right at least once before we let her go, of course.
You did.
So keep government focused on normal people's daily lives, whether it's getting to the hospital without a roadblock or getting kids to school without a clock shot twice a year. Is that kind of the broader message Republicans want to send? And if so, do you think you could talk to some of the national Republicans about issues like these? Because I promise you they're very popular.
Yeah, so my national, I get very frustrated at the federal level. Our state legislators are supposed to be the guardian of the state sovereignty and protecting our citizens inside the state. And it feels like the federal level is just, the works get gummed up so often, but our attention in the media is always on the federal level. But what I travel around doing biblical citizenship classes, we really need to focus local. If you're just focusing on the federal level and not paying attention to what we're doing up here, and it affects your daily lives, actual things that you do every single hour of every day, then let me come to your town. I will give you a course, get your eyes off the feds. You should a little bit, of course, but it takes too long. Here you can actually, I even give people my cell phone number. You can actually come up here to the Capitol right behind me and knock on a door, stand at the ropes. You got to do it by April the 2nd. But even our district offices, we are much more accessible.
Got it. So you're making the case. Clear the roads, protect emergency access, stop jerking people's schedules around twice a year. Is there anything else that Georgia families should watch for in the final stretch of the session, or anything else that you'd like to share with our audience before we let you go today?
We have so many more bills that we need to get over the finish line. We have a great bill that prohibits puberty blockers from minors and prohibits using our state funding for gender transition related surgeries like shaving the Adam's apple or breast augmentation for males. Seriously, this is the type of legislation that the Republicans want and a lot of Democrats want. It's an 80-20 issue. I'm really hoping that we can get that across the finish line this year.
Representative, thank you very much for your time this morning, and best of luck in the session with your bills. We look forward to it, and hopefully coming to Georgia very soon. You hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.